Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. In this video I'm covering four things. First, there's a piece from Crypto Daily about Ripple's David Schwartz, who is Ripple CTO and co-creator of XRP Ledger. He believes that Uber and Amazon should adopt XRP for payments, and goes into detail why. So there are some quotes that I would like to provide you from this particular piece. I also found it fascinating that there's a petition on change.org to have XRP deemed not a security. So I'm going to share the information with you on that. And then in the non-XRP category, authorities have seized, I think it was $19 million worth of Bitcoin. Maybe not the best ways to conduct illicit activity. So I'll share that with you. And also there's an analyst that's calling for Bitcoin to reach $18,000 by, I believe it was September, which is a rather optimistic outlook. So that's what I got for you in this one. Before we get going, though, if you would please delicately tap that like button, and if you're a fan of Ripple and XRP, subscribe. Do yourself a favor, treat yourself, girl. Subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel. All right, into the content, and so this piece titled, Ripple's David Schwartz believes Uber and Amazon should adopt XRP for payments. Now, articles on this topic have been floating around for, I think, the last 2 days or so. And it's actually not brand new information, despite the fact that they're just, for some reason, picking. It seems like one entity will pick this up, and then others just kind of copycat and write their own versions of the same article. I'm going from memory, but I think this was at some point within the last month, maybe two. But I didn't cover it on the channel when the speech happened. So since I saw this, it kind of prompted me to think, oh yeah, actually this is a fun topic. And there's just so much news. Sometimes there are things that I want to cover and then I just don't get to. But this is a good one. This is definitely highly fascinating. So what I'm going to do here is there were, well, first of all, the content, it's derived from comments that David Schwartz made while he was speaking at a conference. And so there are a couple quotes here that I'd like to read directly from this page here, and we can talk about them a little bit. Here's the first one, and this is from David Schwartz. If you're a if you're a Seagate or Amazon or an Airbnb or an Uber, these companies all make large numbers of small payments. Amazon has thousands of merchants that they make payments to. Uber, if you're in the Philippines and you're a driver and you need money for milk, Uber would love you to drive for them and buy milk right that day. But they need efficient payments. They need payments that are as reliable as email for that to happen, and that doesn't exist today. Each of these companies employs literally hundreds of people just in their payments division. And if you imagine if you ran a payment company, you would love to go to any of these new corporates and say, hey, fire your hundreds of payment people, we'll do all your payments, but there's nobody who can do that. Right, the technology just doesn't exist today. And so it's not that we want anybody to be fired, but I think it's a fair point to be made. Like, progress means optimization. That's one of the things that it means, one of the things that it kind of requires, especially as it pertains to technology, decentralized technology, such as the XRP ledger itself here. But it's so cool to me, just the things that you'll be able to do with this technology. The fact that once the realization of the Internet of Value, as Ripple calls it, comes into fruition, you don't need to wait weeks to get paid. Have you ever asked yourself, because how frequently, you've got a job, right? Probably. Well, how frequently do you get paid? Is it once a month? Is it twice a month? What's the schedule? Why is it that you can't get paid every single day after you finish working? Well, it's because it's inefficient to do that because of the cost of the labor associated with it, and there are all sorts of fees as a result. But when you decentralize everything, there's no reason that you couldn't perform a task and then just get paid in real time directly into your checking account. I mean, heck, if you're getting paid hourly, for example, why can't money just be streamed to you for every second that you're working? Well, that's the type of future that we're heading towards here. Just stream it to a bank account in real time. It's absolutely technologically possible to do. You just have to get out of this legacy financial system. And things like that take time, but that is the future that we're heading towards. And we're at a point in history that it's just irreversible. The genie's out of the bottle. Blockchain technology is here. Bitcoin is here. XRP is here. And it's going to be a better place for everybody, big picture. Again, it's not that we want people to be fired because a lot of this human management, it's just no longer needed. But the flip side is, and this is true, every time technology progresses that makes it unnecessary for certain roles to be fulfilled by humans, it does free them up to go do other stuff. You can think about Think about phone operators. Remember they used to run switchboards? That was way before my time, but it used to be that when you made a phone call, you'd get an operator and you'd have to tell them who you wanted to speak to, and then they just patch it through. Isn't it nice that you don't have to do that anymore? You can dial the actual phone number. Doesn't mean we want those people to lose their jobs, but we do want progress. We do. And did it ruin those people's lives? Well, it probably wasn't fun to lose their jobs, but it frees humans up to do other things that are more valuable, frankly. So that is the silver lining. Go do something that is actually more valuable. So, and it's just the nature of progress. That's just the way I see it anyway. Now, here's another part of his public speaking. It's a quote from his public speaking engagement. And he writes, we came up with what's technically a form of federated Byzantine agreement that we call consensus that's faster and cheaper than proof of work. And the result is that XRP is a decentralized digital asset, not connected to any jurisdiction, that moves more quickly and more cheaply than Bitcoin. And I would argue that it's also more censorship resistant and has some of the decentralization properties that we want. And now that's resulted in low cost, low fees, and high transaction volume with low latency. Ripple has built an enterprise payment network on these principles. It consists of 3 products. One to process real-time payments, one is sort of like the browser to send payments, and one to provide on-demand liquidity. Financial institutions use xCurrent to make and receive payments, xVia to initiate payments, and xRapid to provide cross-border liquidity. And this is a real network. This is a point-to-point network. It's not a central server like Swift or PayPal. This is a decentralized network where financial institutions interact with each other through protocols that are not centrally controlled. And when I think about this technology, the way that he's describing it, and these are some smart guys that came up with the consensus mechanism for XRP. But, David Schwartz and the others that came up with, that created XRP, created the XRP ledger. It was Arthur Brito and Jed McCaleb. It was the 3 of them. And they were early Bitcoiners. So it's not that they were anti this technology. They were quite fond of it, but they thought, wow, we can do this better. And when I read stuff like that and I hear David speak on that topic, I can't help but think, wow, this is so cool. All these problems that exist with the Bitcoin blockchain, with how slow it is and how costly it is and so on and so forth, those problems have actually already been solved. Yet for ideological reasons, there's so many people that just want to hang on to Bitcoin. They're emotionally attached to it, and it's too bad because if you just go with a better Layer 1 technology, you're just light years ahead because you just don't have these scaling issues with XRP, and it's super quick, and it is legitimately decentralized. It's more decentralized than Bitcoin. So rather than try and patch up something that doesn't really work with something like the Lightning Network, which also doesn't work, maybe switch to XRP. Just my thoughts on that. But it's completely different. It's the game changer really just has come down to XRP being an on-tap pool of liquidity. That's why, like David said in this quote here, it's not like Swift or PayPal. XRP is actually a gigantic pool of liquidity, and it's concentrated in a number of places. It's mostly on exchanges, right? You can think Binance, you can think Coinbase. They've got massive reserves of XRP, and the fact that it's sitting there because people are speculating and buying and selling, it allows everybody in the financial world, if they so choose, to tap into it. They don't need the Nostro, Vostro accounts anymore. And it's just amazing the world we live in, and we're at this inflection point in time where, this hasn't been heavily adopted, but I like that we get to live through this. How cool is that? By the time I've got, I hope to have kids one day, and one day, when they're in their 20s or 30s, this is all just going to be already set up, and I get to tell them about the olden days when I used to walk to school in the snow uphill both ways, right? Crap like that. And so, but it's going to be taken for granted. But I got to tell you, having a chance to get into the ground floor and invest in digital assets like XRP, specifically, that's the one obviously I'm most excited about. And this is an XRP centric channel, but just having the opportunity to do that at this point in time is amazing. Because I do think at some point you're going to have less volatility as it pertains to the crypto asset class, and I'm sure XRP at some point it's going to be substantially less volatile, even if it takes a long time to get there, even if it's over a decade away. I don't know how long, but one day the excitement around blockchain is going to fade, and it will just be doing what it does, and it is world changing. But the excitement around it, the euphoria you see around it today, it's not going to exist on that scale. And when that happens, yes, everybody's going to be investing in XRP, but who knows? Maybe it'll be viewed more so like gold as a store of value. It just depends on how the ecosystem progresses. Will it keep going up and up? Well, the more people come along and want to buy in, the more humans there are. Of course, there's an argument to be made for that. But even so, even from an investment perspective, while that's great, and the use case in terms of an investment from an investment perspective may change, that's why I'm more excited to get in at this level where it's not just something that you put your money in and then you hope, okay, I hope my money's safe there. It's just going to sit still, right? No. If you're investing in cryptocurrencies, you're assuming, as long as you're right, it's going to go up, right? So that's why we're looking at it. And there's one more piece that David spoke here that was written within this article that I can share with you. And he said, the biggest obstacle that we've found is the legal environment. Enterprises are not ready for a trustless system that's proven by mathematical algorithms. They have customers who might get their credentials stolen. They might want to go to court. One of the biggest things that we have had to do to revolutionize enterprise payments was to come up with a set of rules so that legal agreements can be negotiated with just a couple of red lines rather than a 40-page contract beginning to end of how to handle every possible failure. Yeah, well, that's brilliant. I like that. So today our customers use digital assets to settle payments immediately where that makes sense. And they use more conventional means where that makes sense. But they enjoy the benefits of end-to-end messaging, multi-hop, and the various things that a multi-standard can provide. We think that digital assets and interledger payments can build that Internet of Value. The key piece that I wanted to point out here, and let me read that part again here, it's today our customers use digital assets to settle payments immediately where that makes sense, and they use more conventional means where that makes sense. And you might be like, but XRP is faster, why aren't they using it? Well, just to clarify, unless I don't want to leave you wondering, the reason for that is corridors do have to be built. So yes, XRP is decentralized, you can move it wherever the heck you want. But we're building. You have to build like I think it is laying the train tracks first. Especially that's what's happening. Especially as your Ripple's been deploying X current, and then the technology stacks. So XRP XRapid just lays right on top of that. But if there aren't corridors, and even if the corridors exist, if there isn't sufficient liquidity, then it's not an option anyway, and then you have to go the more traditional, costly route. But as corridors are developed and as liquidity increases, you can conduct more transactions in this capacity, and they're faster and they're less expensive. So that's what he's really talking about when he says that. It's not that conventional means will always be better if for certain instances. It's more like there's not proper and sufficient deployment of XRapid for this to work in every instance. And so that just gives you an idea of exactly how early on we are in this whole freaking process here. All right, next piece here. Change.org. And this is granting Ripple's XRP token as a non-security by the SEC. Of course, that's improperly phrased. It's not Ripple's. Ripple doesn't own the XRP ledger, but whatever. I'm covering it anyway. That's just... When are people going to stop making that mistake? Damn it. Okay. And I found this fascinating, too. Somebody named John McDonough, he's the one that started this petition, and the petition is to United Nations Security Council. Found that fascinating. And this is very short, so it just states... Ripple needs the help of the people to have a voice in pushing the SEC into granting Ripple a no-action letter, meaning it's not a security and able to be traded without issue amongst the people. The very first no-action letter in the crypto and blockchain space from the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, was issued earlier this month. However, seeing that Ripple's XRP finds itself in the same circumstance, the question now is whether the Commission will also issue a similar letter. A no-action letter is one which exonerates a company from any legal action, and it is issued by a government body. All right. So if you guys want to participate in this, the link will be below. You can do that. I will say this, though. The only thing that bothers me conceptually about this is when it comes to legislation or, the SEC issuing anything, the concept of public pressure influencing that decision bothers me. So I'd like to think in an ideal world that it would not influence their actual decision. And I tend to think that it probably will not. But humans are humans, so maybe technically you never know for sure. That's the only thing I don't like about this. But I certainly, I'm with you because I know what you're thinking. We need regulatory clarity. I'm with you 100%. So if there was such a letter to be issued, I wouldn't be crying. I'll say that. That's for sure. But I think the SEC, as we learned from Hester Pierce the other day of the SEC, she states that from her perspective, and she interacts with these people, she works with them, she believes that they are essentially, these are my words, but too afraid to put forth legislation, because if something goes terribly wrong, it's their necks. And that is what she said. I'm paraphrasing, again, those are my words. But that's what she conveyed very recently at, she was on stage, I can't remember what the event was, I think it was a Fortune event, and it just so happened that Ripple employee Ashish Burla was in the crowd, and he was asking Hester, he's like, so is there a timeline for regulation on this, on the, just regulatory clarity regarding crypto in general? And that's when she spoke to that degree, and she said, well, it's going to be slow, so there's no timeline. It's going to be very slow. And so we'll see. I mean, all this, it's all going to happen in good time. So I'm a patient man. I'm cool with it. I've made peace with that. But that's where we're at right now on this anyway. Next, this is from Yahoo Finance. All right, it's titled U.S. Authority Sees 19 million worth of Bitcoins in Dark Web Drug Probe. And it begins. The United States government has seized 19 million worth of bitcoins from a drug trafficker who allegedly laundered funds through the cryptocurrency on the dark website known as Silk Road, which, by the way, is defunct. Remember Silk Road? When was that even technically around? Was it founded? It was shortly after Bitcoin's inception, so like close to a decade ago, something like that. Anyway, the piece continues. The United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York announced the news on Thursday, saying that the trafficker, Hugh Brian Haney, 60 years old, was arrested near Columbus, Ohio. In 2017 and 2018, Haney allegedly transferred bitcoins representing drug proceeds he had earned through Silk Road to an account held at a company involved in the exchange of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. He claimed falsely that the source of these bitcoins was from mining. Liar, liar. Haney is charged with 1 count of concealment money laundering and 1 count of engaging in a financial transaction in a criminally derived property. The former count carries a maximum jail term of 20 years, while the latter a maximum of 10 years. So this guy's in some serious trouble. Homeland Security Investigations Special Agent in charge, Angel M. Melendez, said, HSI special agents employed blockchain analytics to uncover and seize bitcoins valued at $19 million and usher Haney out of the dark web shadows to face justice in the Southern District of New York. So he done got tricked. That's too bad for this guy. Oh my God. And the reason I wanted to highlight this story is, you may recall, if you saw one of my videos in particular the other day, it was on the topic of United States Secretary of the Treasury Steve Mnuchin stating to Joe Kernan, a host on CNBC, that he's basically making the argument that the United States dollar is not being used for money laundering. That was his actual stance, and Joe Kernan actually made him repeat that, and he's like, I gotta push back on that concept, Joe. Okay, buddy. So just to be clear, the reason I wanted to highlight this, look, you can use United States dollar, you can use Bitcoin for illicit activities. One's better than the other if you want to get away with stuff. Look at Bitcoin here. It is tracked. If you engage in illicit activities, nefarious activities, utilizing Bitcoin for your stupid illegal stuff, you're going to get in trouble, idiots. If you want to get away with it, use paper money. And as it turns out, there was another stat. I didn't pull it for this video, but yesterday we found out that just the amount of United States dollar laundered in one calendar year, it's a multiple of the entire cryptocurrency market cap. So it's many times bigger than all of the crypto that exists in the entire world in terms of value, correlated to the United States dollar. So facts are facts, man. I don't think there's any denying that here. And I want to cover this too. I'm going to wrap up the video with this piece. This is from thedailyhodl.com. And it says, analyst calls Bitcoin at $18,000 by September as crypto market surges. Reactions to Bitcoin's sudden surge are pouring in. Bitcoin is up 7.35% at the time of publishing after shooting from 9,367 to 10,607 in a matter of minutes. Now, things happen so quick that those little gyrations don't matter to me. Let me go down here and show you the bigger prediction that I wanted to share with you here. Fundstrat's head of research, Tom Lee, is highlighting a new call from an analyst known in the industry as The Boot. Interesting name. The analyst told his 19,000 followers on Twitter that Bitcoin is set for a massive surge to $14,000 in August and $18,000 in September. Yeah, that's something. So here's a quote from Tom Lee on that. He writes, "Wow, definitely bold, and from someone who has made great calls." So we'll see if this individual is right. I would like to track this here. And so here's a quote from The Boot. "We might never see 4 digits in this bull market. And unless Bitcoin breaks the macro trend, the bottom of the next bear market should be above $10,000. And that's a fascinating concept. And then, I think Thomas Lee, he made his own prediction. I think the last thing that he said was $40,000. I think he said end of year. I don't think I'm misrepresenting him. Mike Novogratz, he did say $20,000 of Bitcoin by end of year. So he's thinking all-time highs are less than half a year away. And when I see stuff like this, I'm always thinking in terms of XRP because that's what that's just what I'm genuinely interested in. I can't help it. That's what I'm into. So what's it going to do for XRP? And I just think it, to me, since it's a matter of time before the next parabolic shift up for the entire asset class, I was thinking in terms of XRP, and I still tend to think, and even though I don't make predictions, it's probably going to be after Bitcoin hits the all-time high, its previous all-time high, or gets close to it. I'd be surprised if XRP, even though the price will move, of course, don't get me wrong. This is just me guessing without making a specific prediction, but I don't really anticipate that you're going to see a parabolic run-up in XRP prior to Bitcoin having its truly next big parabolic run-up, especially in terms of hitting its all-time highs. Because if XRP did, you're talking about if Bitcoin didn't move with it, you're talking about if it goes high enough, XRP would dethrone Bitcoin in terms of market cap and be number one. And that would make Bitcoin an altcoin, which is funny. I like that. And still, I think that's very possible in the future. I'm just saying I'd be kind of surprised if now's the time when it happens. Specifically because I don't see enough people parsing out the differences between various cryptocurrencies. It's more like people are throwing their money into what it's into, and it's more or less a bet on the entire asset class as a whole. So that's the way I look at it anyway. And last thing I want to share with you in the video on a funny note, I don't know if you guys have seen this. I've seen this several times over the last couple months, and I said to myself recently, I was like, next time I come across this, I'm going to end one of my videos with this. I wanted to share it with you. Have you guys seen the movie Interstellar? It's a fantastic movie. I remember sitting there watching it in the theater, and like 2/3 of the way from the movie, I was literally internally saying to myself, this is the best movie I've ever seen. And then they completely threw it in the crapper. I'm not going to say any spoilers, but the whole part with the black hole. And then I was like, oh, God. And so you can tell me what you think about Interstellar below if you care to, even though this is a cryptocurrency channel. But I still love the movie, but I was just like, oh, my God, what a terrible way to end the movie. So anyway, but this is a funny scene. There is a scene where they're on a planet, and time goes at a different speed relative to where it is on Earth. Don't need to get into explaining why. But anyway, so there's an image up here at the top of this image. It says, at the top of this screen capture anyway. Whatever. There's a screen capture and then one below. Whatever, it doesn't matter. And it states, with the two astronauts on a foreign world, it says, 1 hour here is 7 hours on Earth. And then the picture below says, good. We can hodl here. I can appreciate that. So anyway, yeah, gotta love that. And this is from Adam XRP Son, and he writes, have a laugh, you miserable bastards. I like that. You know what? You just earned yourself a follow there, Mr. Adam. Thank you for sharing this. Oh, shoot, I forgot. I'm incognito right now. Yeah, okay, well, that's all right. I'll just, I'll follow him once I get back to a different browser. That's fine. But that's all I got for you right now. I'm not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!